my mother, well, I should say my grandmother and my mother had this weird fascination with beautiful little black children. And my grandmother has all these little black baby dolls everywhere, and it was always just like this precious, because my grandmother had taken in as she had adopted a black boy at one time, and my other uncle was adopted, and my mother and one of my uncles were the only two real children she had, but yet, very giving person and all that. And it she'd always tell me these stories about all these things. So anyways, my mother, when I got older, I was like, Mom, kids at school are talking about how they got names. What's a name? And she was like, oh, well, I named you after, she's like, I had my first Cabbage Patch doll in the 80s, and his name was Matthew, His name is Matt or whatever. And she's like, and the first boy I ever kissed was Matt, and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, she's like, so my firstborn son was going to be Matthew. And I was just like, that's where my name came from? I was like, okay. That's not that cool, but okay, what about my middle name? Where's the middle name from? Oh, well, your middle name is from your dad. Your dad's middle name is that as well. And I was just like, so my name is based off of a doll and someone else's middle name? So I went through this weird crisis for a long time where I wasn't sure what my name was. And, you see other people do things and it gives you hope in the future. So I said, you know what? My mother gave me this name, but so did my father. And my name is Matthew Allen Forbes. Who am I? That's the question everyone should be asking themselves. For some reason, they ask everyone else. Myself, I've been writing for as long as I can remember. I remember being a child, and I had a long life of having speech impediments and strange things that they would go undiagnosed. It was a mystery as much to me as it was to them. And that was the part that was really disconcerting. And somehow along the way, weird things happen where people come into your life and they teach you things. And I had the fortunate opportunity to be taught by someone at the right time, and she was a speech teacher, and she came in, I'd see her after school and go down this cafeteria, and it was like a dungeon of a school, it was just like, it was just like being in a tower of learning. And there was a way that she taught me how to make these books using wallpaper and cardboard. And those were the first experiences I had with learning a process to writing. And then years later, when I was in 8th grade, I found another teacher who was just a regular teacher. They were an English teacher, but they decided to, what'd you call it, I guess, take it upon themselves to make a point. And so I must have been the only one paying attention, because I was the only one who took something away from that. It was just learning a simple process. And so I took all those processes, and that made me who I am, and that made me a writer. And I soon learned that our desire is a lot stronger than we give it credit for. And as a child, I can remember, being into martial arts and being very serious. And then I can remember being in front of the mirror at home, dancing with my Walkman on and turning around, and my grandmother is watching me and she was a dance teacher. She understood what it was to be entertainment, to be professional. And that sort of inspired me, and I started realizing this chain of events in life. You're not just one person, you're not just one role. Who you are is what you experience and want to become. If you allow yourself to be everything, why wouldn't you live in time to experience all of that? So who I am is who I was and who I will be. Silence. I would definitely say that silence is something that is an untapped resource, and there's something about just doing absolutely nothing that people find it like, man, this person does nothing and their life is so much better than mine. And we've always just marveled at it. Wow, look at that person just doing nothing. And why worry about it? You just, your fingernails don't think about how you don't think about how your fingernails are going to grow on your hand. You don't, your hair, you don't, I mean, maybe you should. Maybe that's what we should be thinking about how our hair grows on our head. Maybe it could change who you are. I know I was supposed to be bald. Everyone, because they say it follows in your father's gene, right? And everyone on my mom's dad's side, they were like bald at 20. It was like a flash flood. It was just boom. It was just flat. It was like flat Earth theory right on their dome. It was like straight up just. They're like, how are you not? They just marvel. How are you not bald yet? I'm just so surprised. And I just say, are you serious? Like, I'm the master of my own mind. Anyways. What role? I prefer croissants myself. They're like just way softer. What role? I think if we get too caught up in our functions, we can't express who we truly are, because sometimes we have to change. It's like sitting in a chair. I'm not going to be like this all day, but at the same time, it might feel better to be like this. Tell you something real. So, I mean, everything changes. Nothing is lost. Practice. Practice is perfect. You can't make something perfect. It just is perfect. Because if you keep practicing it, you make it perfect. So it is perfect. Why do we stress about it? Um, there's so many different theories you hear about work. Someone will tell me, my father said to work smart and not work hard. My dad told me that, working, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to be working hard, but you better at least do it for yourself, It's better to work for yourself than a boss, basically. And we live in a strange place because in America, where I'm from, it's regarded a good thing to be independent, but it's also considered a really good thing if you can serve someone, just give. What does that, I don't know what that really even means. What do you give? You have to find something, and if you go through school and you don't actually learn anything from it, what are you going to give if you don't get anything? So it always seemed to just make no sense. Work to me is something, it's an activity you do while you're thinking about the future. And if you're not thinking about the future, you're only indulging in the present moment. And if you're only indulging in the present moment, then you're only, you're here. And so you get to choose. And sometimes some people are in two places at once, and some places are just, things are left behind. But I've always worked hard. I've worked since I was, fucking 14, man. I've worked since I was a little kid, And that's the thing is, I was talking to someone the other day, I was like, one of my greatest fears is, like, having, like, when I was a kid, like, I was like, I need to get a job. I'm 14. I got to start making money. I live with my grandmother. My mom was an addict and needed to be taken care of and couldn't take care of me. And my dad was just trying to get financially back together after being ruined by women, having children with them, and trying to love and give everything he had. And it's a harsh reality, but the truth is that we work. Is that one of the greatest quotes I ever heard? Then, like, on the flip side, I could say is that you have to make a choice. You either say, you agree to yourself, I have to work to live. And that sounds so, like, yeah, it makes perfect good sense, logical. A, B, C, D, maybe you can throw in a G in there, but no, there's another side to that. You just, sometimes with the English language especially, you just take things and flip it around, and it gives you it's like a trap door, Phantom of the Opera and all that. It takes you somewhere else. And I choose to live to work. I get to choose what I work, and I get to choose how I do it and who I do it for and what I do for myself in the end. So I've learned to, and then it can just go on and on. I enjoy work that has the experience of that, what's that term, when you're brushing up elbows, it's, when I was younger, it's like, you get to start where you start based on what you're introduced to, and yeah, I would say that it's just, I'm dying. Well, I'm not sure if it happened as a memory or if it was something that is unknown. I can remember my dad, when I was like 10 years old, telling me about a sickness that I had. I was like 10 months old, and I got really sick. And he brought me to the ER. And when he brought me to the ER, it was like they weren't sure. They had to put me in like a tub of ice, bring my body temperature back. And so the thing is, I remember telling him that I had this weird memory as a kid, but I can't remember if it was a memory I experienced or just something I remembered like a dream. And I told him, I described the whole dream to him. And he said, yeah, that's exactly like what happened. And I saw him carrying me into the hospital with like the chairs that were there at that exact time. And I can remember being then as though I were standing in the room watching him, standing in this doorway watching these doctors. And they were, putting me in like a tub of ice and like looking over me. And I can remember for this moment in this dream feeling like, when you look at like a metal wall and a metal surface together, it like has this glow, like a super metallic, and almost like it fills you, like it's just hollow and awful. And maybe it was like a sense of energy looking at matter, like, well, time to do the dive one more time, And I can remember looking at this, and then it was as if in a blink of an eye, I was coming from the perspective of this child in the tub of ice looking at. I just remember looking up at these doctors and just seeing these doctors. And then coming into a more conscious state, as though I just started breathing again, and I'd never really thought of all that until I got old enough to comprehend that experience in the memory after getting a confirmation from my father that that had happened. And he sort of was, like, oh, well, how'd you know that? So I've always wondered to myself, it's actually the topic of one of my, um, upcoming books. It's going to be about, what was that? Was that just a dream? Was that a dream of a memory, or was that the memory of the moment I went and this soul that I am entered into that body? Regardless if there was anything occupying that child before. There has to be that connection to the way everything seems to be in coincidence with each other. I really am attracted to the irony and the pretense of life that leads to the discovery of freedom through reality. Um, I grew up in a huge house with my grandparents and my cousins and my uncle. And though it was something that wasn't really as scary as other things I could think of, for some reason this scared me on a deeper level. Um, my grandfather had just passed away, and my cousin had moved in, and my grandmother was just getting adjusted to social life without that in a different way, and uh, my cousin and I would play, we'd like wear superhero costumes and stuff, and we were doing that on between the second and the third floor, or the attic, and we were there alone for a little bit because there was an interval of time between my uncle arriving after my grandmother had left when I got off the bus from school. And we were just playing, and we started hearing some strange noises, and we were just really like weirded out by what that was. You hear a noise in a room, and you open the door and there's nothing in there. It's kind of like, well. And the thing is, my family had grown up with living in a house that had been inhabited by ghosts, because there's so many things that that they talked to me about. So it was funny because the sound that we heard in that room was the sound of, like, as if someone was like drumming on a wall or something weird. And so we ran up, you hear it a couple of times, and then all of a sudden it's like Jumanji, and all of a sudden you're just like, it's thunderous, you're like, what the, and we ran up the third floor stairs, and we were there, and something really peculiar happened, though, is we opened up the window because we noticed that my uncle had, my cousin's dad had just pulled up in the driveway 3 stories down below. And we're opened the window, and we're yelling, and we're screaming, and we're like yelling and screaming, and it was as if he was just ignoring us. It just didn't make any sense at all. It's like, how could you not hear 2 kids yelling out of a window right above you? And then we noticed that he came in, but we didn't hear him come in. And my cousin said, okay, we're gonna run down. We had to run down 1 flight of stairs and go around a whole hallway that was open, and then go down this other flight of stairs that was like, 3 steps, and then you take a sharp turn and you go down like the stairs into the kitchen, or you go down this other creepy huge set of stairs that went to this like living room. It was crazy. It was like a 23-room house, you know. So we loved playing in it, you know. And I was wearing some stupid costume or something, and I felt wicked embarrassed. Like a ghost made me embarrassed. I was like, "Are you serious? Like I'm wearing some stupid clothes. And you're trying to mess with me right now, you know?" So I like, so. But what happened right before that is that it sounded like whatever was making that noise was traveling, following us towards the third floor, and we heard it as though it was like right at the door. And we had these, my grandmother had these ornate swords on the wall, but they were like really cheesy, but they were heavy, and it's not like you could like really sword fight with someone. It was more like if you hit something, you went into it. Like you was like hitting a piece of meat. Like it was like beating someone with a beefsteak. You're just like boom, chop right. Anyways, my cousin, of course, he was older, but at the same time, there's like plenty of stories of him being a scaredy cat and always being like, and my grandmother was always like, oh, it's so funny, blah blah blah. This would happen. It was always like, Matt, you go first, blah blah. Cause I'd tell her what happened afterwards, and later she would, satirize it, you know. And so it was kind of funny because so like I'm like holding this crazy sword, and I'm like going down the stairs, and I'm like this like 4-foot kid with this giant Conan the Barbarian sword that's like probably cut my own head off, and my cousin's behind me just like making it seem like he's following behind me, and I look back, and all of a sudden there's an entire staircase between me and him, and I'm like, are you crazy? I like opened the door, I was like, fuck you, and I just fucking ran up the stairs, you know. I'm just like this 10-year-old kid who's just like, what the hell, you know. So I ran up there, and anyways, that was like around the time like we ran from that, and we started yelling to my uncle because he had just driven up his car, and we saw that, and we were like, so then we made up our minds, okay, we're gonna run down there. And then meanwhile, I'm like, my cousin decided it was a better idea to carry a sword down to his dad. So I'm running down there with no sword and wearing this stupid kid, like, I don't know, it was like some made up costume with like some kind of weird like zipper shorts and a cape or something messed up. Like I was wearing the mask at the time. But anyways, so we ran down the stairs, and I went, and somehow as fast as a superhero, I changed into my regular clothes. So I'm like, I don't want to look like a fucking... Anyways, so I ran down there, and my uncle was like, how was just yelling, like, what the hell? So apparently, alright, so to wrap up the craziness of it all, my uncle apparently walked in to the kitchen, and he heard as though someone was running up and down the stairs. But the thing is that we only ran down the stairs once, and it was like a sure one-shot thing. It was never as though like we were running up and down the stairs. So he heard something going on that we couldn't hear, and we were yelling down to him outside that he couldn't hear, and we ran down there. And I just feel like the fact that people lived in this house for like so many years with their family. My aunt had passed away, my grandfather had passed away there. We were all at this crazy change, and it was like they literally had taken these carpets that my grandmother and my grandfather had loved and made, got in the house, and they like had them like, it was just weird looking at a house that you grew up in, and all of a sudden you see like everywhere you turn is like a big rug rolled up, and it's like a mansion. It's like a 23-room house, these crazy rooms, the ornate stuff all boxed up. My grandfather was great though. Like there was this giant painting in the living room wall, but he was like, obviously he was a Polish genius. So what he did was he measured out the exact size of the painting, and he made it like a taper mark, and he literally just painted a square that was a perfect enough size. So when they took off the painting to move it, there was just a big white square in the middle of the wall. He was just like, So, anyways, that has always been like the biggest mystery, I'd say, of my childhood. I would say that this actually happened more recently, and it sounds kind of more childish than anything, but I went to a show with my dad when I was 27, and when you go, sometimes when I go and I do things, suddenly I'll hear other people talking about something, and I'll think of myself in that situation and what I would do, and certain things I think about that I would do and I wouldn't do in the setting of being at a music show, being someone who plays music myself and having had time on stage. It's like you get to be yourself. It's like I don't ever like going to a place where I feel like I'm going to put an artist on the spot, and I know how it feels, but I want to be there to show appreciation. And anyways, there's this woman that was older that was standing next to me, and she was like, "Oh, I want to get a tambourine really bad, blah blah blah." And one of those kind of situations, they really want something. And this guy next to her was like, "Oh yeah, well, this and that," and talking about everything. So anyways, it was like the last song of the show. It was a great show, and it was kind of funny because the whole time it was like my dad was standing next to me and we're rocking out, and it's like you go on YouTube and you can see like the videos of these things happening, and it was like just weird going back. I remember, it's amazing how you can experience something and remember it differently than when I went back and watched it. And I'll get back to that idea in a second, because it's like this weird connection to how so I guess during the show, the lead singer of this band, he likes to hand out tambourines, and this awesome roadie was behind like this amp, and he it's amazing. If you watch the video, you can like see it. It's like a perfect moment in time. This it's all like within the right timing of everything, and this roadie just throws this tambourine, and it's like this. And the funny thing is, like, the singer is using this one tambourine for like the whole show, or like most of this show, and he just like throws it on the ground, and then he's singing, and it's like in this momentous and epic moment, this tambourine soars through the air, and he catches it, and he's just playing, singing. It's just like the anthem moment of the song, and then he just, I know that at a certain point, like a few songs before this, I remember I took when if you're listening at a show, all of a sudden quiet for like a second, if you get that split C hair of a second, I was just like, "Rock shaman," and and he just, I think he heard me because he kind of like, a little perk, I don't know, maybe not, maybe imagining that part, maybe he sensed something in my energy. I don't know what it was. It was momentous because I have like had very like spiritual dreams with this person as like a spirit guide, this lead singer, and there's this moment where so you're watching the video and they're playing one of their hit songs. It's their last song in their set, and he's playing tambourine, and he like does this thing. It's just it's just like, it's magic, with the K. He throws it up and he kicks it, and he just grabs it, and the way he catches it as though he's just like he's catching like a crown or something, and he just walks up, and all of a sudden it was like, you see, and if you watch the video, you see my hand come up and grab it, and it's just like, it's amazing. And then this whole situation unfolds, but yeah, it was just an amazing thing to experience someone that you admire in certain ways. But what really sort of bugged me out was that a week later I had a dream where I was like talking to him again. It was like this boom, I had put so much thought into it that I had, and the funny thing is I had not thought about getting a tambourine myself. I didn't think about it. I had thought about her, this woman next to me. I was like, oh, I'm like right in the middle, because my dad wanted to get right up front, so I'm like right in the middle. He wanted me to be in the middle, on my face, such a little kid, but it's like awesome. And then this woman, she wanted a tambourine, but it was funny because it wasn't like he handed it to her. It was like my hand. If you watch the video, it's like he handed it right to me, and then the way anyways, the way it unfolds, it was like everyone ends up happy in the end. I would say that art is about feeling. It's about feeling everything and then expressing it and expressing how you feel. So if you have so you can't be happy without knowing what lonely is, and you can't be lonely without knowing happy is. And that's what makes life life, and that's why people are considered not being soulless, because they are stuck in the grind. And honestly, you can live in the grind but know how to survive. If you're an artist, you can survive anywhere, and that's the whole point as well. But there's like a mythology of being and I'm an autist. I'm an autist. You have to. It's like you have a bed of roses surrounding you, and you're just there, and oh, so that's the beauty of it, is that you get to be who you are. And if you're someone, no matter what extreme you take, that's the beauty of being art. You're not an artist. An artist is just a way social society can accept you. That's all that really matters, is just trying to find a way to be accepted but still be yourself. And that's what we're all seeking. One thing my buddy once said, he was like, remember that time we did mushrooms? I was like, yeah. He's like, remember other times, like all other friends in mushrooms? I was just like, yeah. And he's like, it's like, maybe, I think you might know Jordan through school or something, but it's like, he's just like, yeah, well, a lot of those kids are like self-righteous because they did that. Like, they felt like because they did drugs, they experienced something better. And I just know that people I know that haven't abused anything that made them feel self-righteous, no matter the things they struggle with, they're still the people that, I don't know, I saw this amazing quote and it reminded me of my best friend, and it was this quote by James Dean, and it was, only the gentle can be strong. My work, I dislike the fact that it's never done. That's the irony of doing the work, is that once you finish something, people never realize in the art world, or outside of the art world, how in the art world you're so many miles ahead of what you're showing them in the moment, that just so that once it comes to the next moment, you're like ready for it. And it's like, it just makes you, that's what keeps you going, is the fact that you have to be in the moment, but in many moments. Angry. I'm angry when I can't experience the muse that I need to express what needs to come through. And I will go to great lengths and do crazy messed up things I can't even talk about in any sort of mortal interview that people don't even want to know. It's like one of those, like, take it to the grave, So I'll leave it at that. I think I always debate about this. And the superpower I used to always think I want would be to fly. But drinking a beer and like doing this whole interviews made me realize the greatest superpower would be to never use the bathroom ever again. To just literally, maybe that's the whole point of being God, is that you can live without having to ever just do everything. You can just literally just literally, when they talk about, you think you're like eating a grape and like laying on this lounging chair, and you're like, oh, I'm Julius Caesar, I'm a god. But really, the real god is the god that doesn't have to shit that grape out 5 minutes later if you're doing too much coke or something. Last year, my best friend and I, he's a producer, he helped me make a film called 27 on 27, because I was born June 27th at 12:27 a.m. and I turned 27 on the 27th. This year I'm turning 28, and I decided, well, fuck it, I'm not going to do something on the 27th, I'm going to do something a little later. I'm past 27, I'm 28 now. I'll do something a little later, be a little more adult. 27 is the last hurrah, you know. They don't even include it in chakra books, you know, circa 2010. So it doesn't really, you know, it's not necessary anymore. You know, it's I'm not there right now, so I have to be where I am. It's, people need people need to listen more, and they need to enjoy talking more. It's like we're at a time where, you know, depth is only how far your wallet goes, and people will deny it and say poverty and all this, but it's not. That's not. You don't have to be rich to just to make money your god. You know, it's not. You know, killing yourself. We are still killing ourselves for anything that we live for. You know, and I really I feel like everyone has a story to tell, and there is always a soul to speak, that it's unspoken. Something I love. That's. I feel like there's so much love. I feel like everything, like love is my law. You know what I mean? Love is what I live by. Love is everything. So to say something I love, I'd say. I remember when I was a kid in Catholic school, there was this teacher who said, "Okay, let's play this game where imagine imagine that you're stranded on an island and all you can take is one thing with you." And they went around the classroom and they go, "Oh, I would take my favorite Harry Potter book because that's how I deal myself out every night, you know." Or, "Oh, I would take this DVD of my favorite movie because special effects are really awesome." Or, you know, anyways, the list goes on. And, you know, it's all in that same toolbox of experiences that the collective mind of some generation is always going through. And she came to me, and I was like, at first, the first half of the people that they were talking, it was like I had this first thought of like, I'm gonna be so, I'm gonna like pick the best one thing ever, the best. There's only one thing, and I'm gonna figure it out what it is. They're gonna be like, you figured out what one thing that it is. And I'm just gonna be like, no, I don't. I'm like, no. You know what? Fuck it, I'm not gonna do one. There's not one thing. I started having this philosophical debate inside my head. It's like there isn't just one thing. I was like, what to be the mind of God, you'd have to experience every little thing individually at the same exact time, and you were all here just right now. So how can you just take one thing? I'm gonna take this table because that's it's really good when I'm doing the things I have to do. No, I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna choose one. This is everything. I am everything. I experienced moving into my body, or something. Am I alive? Is it a dream? Row, row, row your boat. I don't know what to believe. So, yeah, I just, was just, didn't think much about it. Just, forgot what I was saying. To bring Jimi Hendrix back alive and play drums. Um, I really like to be considered just as concise as the Bloodhound Gang. I would really like to be just as pithy as Alien Ant Farm, and I would probably like to be just as determined as the Foo Fighters. there's like a woods we would go down into. My cousin and I, when we were kids, we would drive there and we'd go there, probably get stoned or something, but we would go and we used to call it the Lizard Kingdom. It was like go in. It was just like it was like there's a trail you'd normally go, and if you cut up this way and go around, you'd go down this other hill, and there'd be this stream of water and these crazy ancient looking stones made out of bridges, and it's Lizard Kingdom. Professionally, I'd say it's just, you have to, just gotta, the portal of the old world is, like thy will be done, but, know thyself, we're all like walking through a doorway, and above that doorway it says know thyself, and that's the exit. We're all trying to know who we are, but we don't realize that all it's leading to is just on the other side behind you. It's just, be thyself. Just be yourself. Be who you are. Do what you do. Feel what you feel. Encourage other people not to be afraid to do that, because then you're showing that you're strong in doing that, and you're not just going along with trying to be a sensitive person, because sensitivity is always considered. So you avoid everything that could obstruct you, but yet you're strong enough to hold true to what you have to do.
Thank you.
Yes.